Obsessed and fixated, the amphibian from Bavaria, Germany, continues to croak like the toad he is, spreading more dog shit news that no one gives a flying fuck about.
Severely mentally ill, convicted stalker Matt Taylor from Brighton is having a field day looking at the Belfield stalking trial. Watching Taylor comment, disguised as an evil emperor and visibly aroused by the topic, is like watching a pig rolling in manure. If you want to spoil your day, here is the link. Stalkers gravitate towards each other. Here is convicted stalker Taylor pretending to be a journalist, making fun of another stalking victim. Calling Taylor a journalist is like calling a fart a symphony. Taylor lacks the training, ethos and common sense. Here is convicted cyberbully, liar and nonce Matt Taylor, Brighton, spreading dangerous lies about another one of his victims, the net activist Danny Jones. Sussex police again does nothing.
Smashing it out of the park, with dog shit news. Welcome to more dog shit news. News the mainstream media wouldn't answer the phone for.
I wonder when Sussex police will be embarrassed enough by their continuing failure to act upon Matt Taylor's crimes to actually do something. We already had several of his victims considering suicide. Here is convicted cyberbully Matt Taylor, exploiting his own children for his delusional media campaign. Obviously neither their mother nor police cares about him abusing his own children. Pathetic. Hashtag Sussex police fail. Sussex police is either incompetent or corrupt. Their ongoing failure to deal with petty stalkers like Taylor leaves the observer with suspicion that they are incapable of doing the job. If they can't even help the PCC, what can they do at all? Here is convicted cyberbully, liar and nonce Matt Taylor, Brighton, spreading dangerous lies about another one of his victims, the net activist Danny Jones. Sussex police again does nothing.
Smashing it out of the park, with dog shit news.
Taylor is issuing death threats to another one of his victims and a fake bomb warning for Brighton. As usual, Sussex police does not care. Hashtag Sussex police fail.
Prospective parliamentary candidate for Brighton Kemp Town, the Satan hunter Matt Taylor has an interesting way to deal with voters asking awkward questions by issuing lots of death threats against them, as he did to me yesterday, attached. Quite a lot of death threats it seems. The video is a rather spectacular death threat.
Sooner or later Taylor's relentless online harassment will trigger a suicide or a similar disastrous action. Then Sussex police will have to explain why they weren't even capable of dealing with the guy who stalked their own PCC. They had plenty of warnings.
They do not, and I'm not encouraging anyone. Don't do.
Oh my god, this, oh my god.
My god.
This is how you do it, man. No fear.
Amazing. This is what every Brighton teenager has ever done. Jumped off the pier. Groined.
Anyway, let's play a game. Where's Matt? He certainly hasn't got his equipment, has he? 11 days, Matt Taylor. He'll be looking at stalking and harassment charge and a hate crime from me as well. But you know what? It's another piece of shit out of the way if he has been remanded. Angela, you're vile. You all are.
For personal and business reasons, I want to learn more about the pedophiles, their process of grooming in chat rooms, the impact they have on their victims, what the police and pedophile hunters are doing, and what the children feel, experience, think and act with regards to these pedophiles. If people want to see the site I have been talking about, they can message me on Twitter. I will give you the address. You can join the chat room as a guest without an email and see what I mean. The media, public and parents really don't have a clue just how bad this can be on chat rooms, especially those with moderation problems. The groomer from Kent, I could have ended in their life being ruined, but it is not in my nature to be the cause of the ruin of the lives of others. Unlike the hunters, I don't like that on my mind. It is the case that when I fight for child A or the children, their injustice reminds me of the injustice done to me as a child. And when I look at the newborn baby in my own family, all I see is a child I am motivated to protect from the same injustice.
Shelley Moat is back and denying the existence of the Amman Ford tunnels, and the screams of children in terror, which Alan Haight and his wife hear coming from their basement.
Gross fuck. SRAU joke. You're reported for distributing child torture videos. Why? Because you're a sadist. Fuck you, wanker. You make me sick, and all the people who have support for you.
Matt is getting aroused.
Dan, nothing would surprise me, dirty bastard he is. Play what you want, cunt. Old Bill are watching you. The biggest concern is you have kids. Is because only a pedo, a weirdo would obtain it. I'm out, you make me sick. Ha ha ha. I'm out. Who, me, Matt?
The Russians are coming for you, Moat.
Again you play it, you are sick and twisted. Was the death threat to me, Matt? Just like I have your address, Matt. I'm now reporting you.
Big up, Shelley Moat. Now you have reported to the police again. I've reported you to the police, and they are fully aware of this video. And yes, the police, both Sussex and Counter-Terrorism Police, are aware of your videos too, including all of today's live streams.
Anyone seen Matt Taylor? Just wondering. Anyone? Now I hope he's been dealt with. There's one down, the rest of you are coming. Because Matt's going to have loads of stuff that links you all, especially you, Ange. Now, there is a restraining order preventing him from mentioning this. Yeah? Now, see that cunt? She tortured her own children and she allowed it to happen. Matt Taylor was part of that. As you can see, so was Angela Powell Disney. That bitch there allowed her children to be tortured, and then she done a runner. It's a shame she's locked up for resin, isn't it? And then we have this dirty paedophile, child abusing, torturing, dirty cunt. Another one of Angie's friends. His family had a lot of torture and harassment because of these people. So now, Nicola Lane, you can add yourself to it, yeah? Because Angie is no different to Jeanette Archer or any of the rest of them. You all abuse children because you're all wanting to prove this fake SRA shit that you chat on about. Yet what you really are is a bunch of terrorists, yeah? And as it says here, both of the children were actually tortured by this disgusting bunch of people. So why should the father be being blamed for something he hasn't done? You're all re-abusers. Now, what happens? Ella got the court documents back. She decided to give Sabine, didn't she? Sabine, Angie's friend, Sabine McNeil. The other fucking cunt. Now here's Sabine. Here's Sabine. Does it sound anything different? to Angela. They're all a sick bunch of old bastards. So, considering you can see at the bottom left-hand corner here, Joe, and that's on Matt's blog, and it's still live, and the cyber police have it, and the courts have it. I wonder whether Matt's been locked up because he's a child abuser too. Anyway, let's play a game. Where's Matt? He certainly hasn't got his equipment, has he? 11 days, Matt Taylor. He'll be looking at a stalking and harassment charge and a hate crime from me as well. But you know what? It's another piece of shit out of the way if he has been remanded. Angela, you're vile. You all are.
For the purposes of the pedophiles, I play an insight role as a young teen male. My avatar is really me, and my story is roughly as it was at that age. I am as authentic as possible, and I keep away from the subject of sex, but this becomes harder when a groomer moves in on me. I live in a permanent trap of dissociation, the gift given to me by my childhood abusers, where the world around me, my senses and my feelings don't feel real, and I live as if in a perpetual film, where I am the observer of my own life, but not the participant.
Hello, Tampon Terry. I don't know who Tampon Terry is. But we are just playing some Family Feud here, so if you keep that in mind.
They call him Tampon because he's a stuck-up cunt.
Oh, okay.
It's probably cultivated. He normally calls him Tampon Terry. Probably that toothless tramp who likes going down to the seaside and asking young men to remove their clothes so they can look at their naked bodies.
Oh yeah, the Matt Taylor loves to film young underage boys by the beach, encouraging them to dive into dangerous situations, but that is a whole other situation there. So let's go ahead and continue on with the Family Feud. That is on the record. Matt Taylor told me to do that.
Yeah. Absolutely live. Have we watched these teenagers do what every single teenager in Brighton has ever done? Jumped off the pier. Groins. No, but don't listen to a word he's fucking... Brighton. Oh, God. There always has to be one pervert in the background. Yes. We're going to watch this streaming. We've got 8 people watching your... But listen, guys, be careful, for goodness sake, and launch. No... Yeah. What the? I'm not filming it. In case it falls in. OMG.
Wait, you on a live stream?
Yeah.
Wait, give me a second. I've got some questions on now. This is the last time we're doing it anyway.
Do not have.
Go out in the blaze glory.
Just do a normal jump. Don't do a backflip. Alicia, we love you.
Oh look, they're ready for it. Just scrape up your body. No. Oh no, lads. Oh, that was your moment. I didn't see them. That was your moment, lads. Look. That could have all been filmed. What's the Oh, what a shame. No, they're going to be
I say do not, and I'm not encouraging anyone. Don't do.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
He's safe. What a hit! That was intense, man. Oh, whoa! It's happening again.
No
my
fear.
God!
This is how you do it, man. No fear. Fucking hell.
Amazing. This is what every Brighton teenager has ever done.
Give me the spot for a minute. Right, you just seen here. When they say no, you say yes. And look what happens. Nothing happens. Yeah? What a lesson this is to all of us.
Welcome to Dog Shit News. Brighton Satanist James Hind breaks his silence.
I doubt the Satan hunter Matt Taylor of Brighton claims are true that Russian agents are after me due to my... According to Satan hunter Matt Taylor, the prospective parliamentary candidate for Brighton Kemp Town, Russian agents have been dispatched to Brighton to kill me. Taylor suggests Brighton is now in danger of a poison attack. He sent out press releases and created a video. I doubt the Satan hunter Matt Taylor of Brighton claims are true that Russian agents are after me, due to my opinion that a nuke should be dropped on Putin or my vague undeclared plans to help Ukraine. I won't be running anywhere. I doubt Brighton is in danger either.
Ex-Royal Military Policeman and prospective Member of Parliament for Brighton Kemp Town 2024, Matt Taylor, claims to be working with Black Ops and MI6 to intercept any Russian agents planning to plant a poison chemical bomb on Brighton Beach, killing hundreds of thousands of innocent people, to kill one Satanist. Stay tuned to Dog Shit News for more bullshit the mainstream media wouldn't touch with a barge pole. In other bullshit news, Professor Toad from Bavaria, Germany, is once again bitching to Sussex police that Matt Taylor is allowed to exercise his freedom of speech and expression.
Taylor is issuing death threats to another one of his victims and a fake bomb warning for Brighton. As usual, Sussex police does not care. Hashtag Sussex police fail.
Oh, here we have. It looks like we've got someone in the room. Sadly, I cannot hear them. Which may be a good thing.
Now you can hear me, Matt.
Oh, I can hear you,
It's
sir.
me, Tom Niedermeyer.
Who are you?
My name is Tom Niedermeyer, Matt.
Oh, right, okay. I haven't heard of that name before. If you'd like to introduce yourself to the audience, tell us a bit about yourself.
I'm the guy that you call a monster, a stalker, and a criminal.
Oh, who's that? No, I don't think we talk about... Are you talking about the MrX that...
No, I'm talking about you, Matt. And
Oh.
I will get you locked up. I will get you in prison. I will get you fucking in prison, you asshole.
Wow, I'm surprised. Have we ever met before?
No, we've never met.
So where's all this anger coming from towards me?
Because you've been harassing me and my family for months now, and I can't wait to put you behind bars.
Well, hang on, isn't that child abuse? I've already spoken about that. It's very mean of people saying that, because it means you're taking away a loving father from their children. I'm the actual person who helps the key workers in the UK.
Getting you locked up is the best thing that could happen to your children.
Oh, really? Do you really believe that? But have you ever met my children?
No, but
so how do you know that's going to be the best thing for my children?
That's enough to know that you're a psycho and a weirdo and you're not good for children.
Oh, really?
You have to have convictions for harassment.
Oh, I haven't got any convictions for harassment. And I've noticed... okay, look, goodbye. Look, we're not allowed to say things like that, mate. Look.
Thanks for watching Dogshit News, and stay tuned for more.
My fight with the Satan hunters is driven by a feeling of injustice. An angry email. You hypocritical lying bastard, accused the email. If emails could burst into flames, this was one. I don't know what your agenda is, said the email. It was like a question mark that stood a second in the air, then ignited to ash. Such is the life of fighting Satan hunters. My social media posts will upset someone. Today, it was the turn of a former ally against the Satan hunters, who stood in line with the Satan hunters to find fault with my deeds and words. It is a wise person to see in the conflicts of life an opportunity to test truth, and the indignant scribe did raise a good question: what is my agenda in fighting the Satan hunters? Reality testing is important to me, so I ask questions of my motivations, thoughts and feelings all the time. I live in a permanent trap of dissociation, the gift given to me by my childhood abusers, where the world around me, my senses and my feelings don't feel real, and I live as if in a perpetual film, where I am the observer of my own life, but not the participant. As the only cause of a million causes I could have fought, fighting Satan hunters is the cause I feel motivated to throw my life behind, at a vast expense of money, energy and time out of my life, so the question of what my agenda is in fighting Satan hunters is an important one. The day before the fiery email landed in my inbox, I learned of a new addition to my family. The photo I saw of the newborn baby was cute, a sleeping infant in the embrace of the mum, trusting, safe and secure. My busy brain got to work when I saw that picture of the baby. Was I fighting the Satan hunters to make a safer world for this baby? What I noted in my reaction to the baby was that I did not want that baby to suffer the experience of Child A in the Wilfred Wong case. The prey of Satan hunters. It was not so much that I wanted to make a better world for the baby to live in, but a strong desire that the baby would not suffer the injustice of the child victims of Satan hunters. It is a feeling rather than a value, ideal or principle that drives my fight against the Satan hunters. It is a feeling that is difficult to describe, a burning outrage that rises up whenever I encounter it, and woe those that triggered it. Born no doubt from my own childhood abuse experiences of adults and people in authority using their power against my vulnerability, this feeling against injustice rises when I encounter someone in power harming something that is weak or vulnerable. Although it rises at harm done to animals, the feeling rises more so when children suffer injustice. Although those who campaign for children talk about an ideal set in a future, I exist outside of time, so past, present and future mean nothing to me. The feeling of injustice is what matters, and motivates me. I have tried to rectify injustices done to children that happened hundreds of years in the past. I am committed to fighting long wars that will last years and decades against the Satan hunters, and against the social media companies that enabled those Satan hunters. Of the social media companies, nothing short of their destruction would satisfy me. I supported Brexit, even campaigned for it, only because the EU gave the Satan hunter Sabine McNeill a platform to speak. Satan hunters such as Becky Percy and Angela Power Disney underestimate the pure resolve I have to bring them to justice. All this driven by my feeling of injustice. The kidnapping of Child A by Satan hunter Wilfred Wong and his gang, the torture and release of intimate details of the children, sent my feeling of injustice into full blaze, except there is no heat, but a deadly darkest winter that would instantly frostbite anyone close to its embrace. Winter is coming is a good saying for any Satan hunter I feel my sense of injustice against. What Satan hunters really mean when they say they are fighting for the children, is that children are their pawns to an end such as fame, money, power, revenge and ideology. The children the Satan hunters come into contact with are preyed upon by Satan hunters. Child A and another child in the kidnapping by Wilfred Wong have PTSD, probably for life, now in their teens, who must face the humiliation of their faces, names, medical reports, and intimate videotapes circulating constantly on the internet thanks to the Satan hunters. And can enjoy no teen life in anything that gives them media or internet publicity, because of the Satan hunters, who will stalk and harass, not even the successful little business that children a major award a few years ago, ruined because of Satan hunters. It is the case that when I fight for child, their injustice reminds me of the injustice done to me as a child. And when I look at the newborn baby in my own family, all I see is a child I am motivated to protect from the same injustice. So, the answer to the question, what is my agenda in fighting the Satan hunters? It is a feeling of injustice that fuels my passion and focus to prevent children from experiencing the feeling of injustice I suffered, which children are now experiencing at the hands of Satan hunters. When Satan hunters such as Jeanette Archer says she will sacrifice her life for the children, her words are empty. She has agendas like power, fame and money driving her. Archer is a coward, and would throw a child under a bus, if it served her agenda. No children will ever be saved by Archer. Her harvest is a trail of broken children. In the cold winter darkness something is following Jeanette Archer. The winter is coming, and it will never stop, because a feeling of injustice drives it onwards, that no army, mountain or God can stop. And woe to any Satan hunter the angry wintry shadow with a frosty passion will challenge, because this type of champion will die in the embrace of its passion. It might not be noble values, ideals and principles that drives a wintry creature, but a feeling of injustice. Although the end state is the same, children benefit, Satan hunters do not. When activists become monsters. It has been an unhappy revelation in recent months to discover that not only do I have to watch my back against Satan hunters, those who prey on people using Satanists eat babies for Satan narratives, but also against activists who I thought was working on the same side. When Satan hunters Wilfred Wong was jailed and Jeanette Archer was arrested, the activists all turned their attentions from Satan hunters and onto each other, daggers being plunged into the backs of fellow activists on the same side. The true character and motives of various activists became revealed in what has become a sordid and miserable saga around the personal disagreements of Sheva Burton and Shelley Moat. It no longer matters now how it started, it has reached the point that someone is going to get hurt and arrested. It is a saga driven by hatred, ego, envy and revenge, people who forgot why we were all challenging Satan hunters such as Wilfred Wong and defending his victims such as the kidnap victim Child A. I came to the table with an inclusive viewpoint of working with anyone who appeared to share my primary aims of challenging Satan hunters and defending the innocent from Satan hunters. This has been probably a naive viewpoint for me to make, as rather too many I worked with turned out to have other agendas, which by their deeds was not in the interests of the children and other victims of Satan hunters. I now find that I am forced to the wall, not only defending my own back, but also the backs of other quality activists such as Rhys Leverick and Shelley Moat from a horde of people recruited by Sheva Burton who won't stop until they have destroyed someone. Sheva Burton over several months has recruited everyone and anyone who has an issue with Shelley Moat. Without evidence, this horde, recruited mainly from those who delight in the bloodsport and drama of YouTube wars, has gone after Shelley Moat, her child, her religion, her character, her good work against Satan hunters. Without evidence, these thugs make claims that potentially impacts the police investigation into Jeanette Archer, makes the conviction of Wilfred Wong and other child kidnappers unsafe, and even suggested Moat was involved in kidnapping children. Sheva Burton is the leader of a gang rolling out false claim after false claim without evidence against Shelley Moat and anyone that supports Moat. For this blog I shall respond to some of the claims Sheva Burton and her gang have made against me. On who I am. As an activist I am James Hind. I am none of the people who Satan hunters or the Burton gang claim I am. I have an internet track record on this blog alone going back to 2013. My branding is the same across all my social media, and I do not post under any other accounts outside of this branding in relation to my work against Satan hunters. I keep my personal life separate from my work against Satan hunters. Anyone who claims special knowledge about me are false, since I have not shared my personal information with anyone but the police. Because I only operate through my specific branding, I have an incentive and responsibility to protect my reputation and not to compromise my work against Satan hunters and protecting victims from them. My aims. My aims are 1. Challenging Satan hunters, 2. Protecting the victims of Satan hunters, 3. Supporting the work of fellow activists who follow aims 1 and 2. There are those amongst the Burton gang who in attacking me infer that aims 1 and 2 are unimportant and worthless matters to pursue. Tell that to Child A who now suffers severe PTSD from a violent kidnapping by Satan hunters. Shelley Moat does not have any magic influence over me, she is a quality activist whose work stands in the public record as results in protecting the vulnerable and bringing Satan hunters to justice. What Shelley Moat, Rhys Leverick and I and other quality activists do is work closely with the victims of Satan hunters, we research and document evidence, we then send that information to the police, courts and other agencies, resulting in tangible outcomes in keeping victims safe and curtailing the activities of Satan hunters. It is no accident that the ones under severe attack by Sheva Burton and her gang are quality activists like me. Challenging Satan hunters and protecting victims is more than just bandwagon jumping like many of the Sheva Burton gang do, it is long hard work, often at great personal risk to the activist. Creating videos and then commenting about it on YouTube does nothing to stop Satan hunters, that is why I don't bother with videos, the real work is in the research, documentation and reporting to the legal authorities. Am I a traitor? My approach to challenging Satan hunters and protecting victims is built around the concept of acting as a self-motivating and independent unit. This means I am not tied or dependent on any individual or group in following my aims. I work as an ally to those such as Shelley Moat, those with a proven track record of merit and results. I have my own mission statement, rules, aims, processes, social media and even a website. Much of my work is done quietly and unannounced. I am privy to vast amounts of information that I often cannot share. All the tools and connections I require to follow my aims are in-house. If all activists vanished, I would still be fully operational and effective. The victims I work with all know I act with professionalism, confidentiality, and with complete loyalty to them. When the professional troll known as Grobnob in the Sheva Burton gang accuses me of being a traitor because I chose not to be a sheep and follow what was an unjust and illegal campaign of gang stalking against Shelley Moat, that is not treason, it is me being an individual and following my mission statement rather than petty empire builders in challenging Satan hunters and protecting victims. My support of Shelley Moat is not about her having some influence over me, but in protecting her ongoing good work against Satan hunters and protecting victims. The question of money. At the time of writing, I have not gained any income from fighting Satan hunters. I have not paid any money to any fellow activist. I am prepared to assist in underwriting future legal cases against Satan hunters. If Sheva Burton has any evidence to support their false claims about me and money, I would be interested to see that. Like most claims the Burton gang make, it is malicious allegation making without evidence. The account Kiss My Axe Satan Hunters. This Axe account is a source or many false allegations against me, Reese Leverick and Shelley Moat. Some of the false claims are serious enough that the police need to look at them. This is why I and researchers are frantically trying to identify who this Axe account is. I do urge that account to send me an email address so that the police can contact them. If they are holding information that makes the Wilfred Wong trial convictions unsafe, or that the police investigation into Jeanette Archer is the result of Simone perverting the course of justice, or that Shelley Moat has been involved in a plot to kidnap child A, you need to provide the evidence and communicate with the police. I know more about the Wilfred Wong case than anyone in the public, and the name of Shelley Moat never came to my attention in relation to the many names associated with the plot. What information does Axe have and is withholding? This is an area where Shelley Moat could pursue a defamation action for if we can get a pro bono barrister onto this case. The Axe claims to be a researcher, but then makes all these claims against their victims without showing evidence to support those claims. The Axe is blackmailing, threatening, and releasing personal information that puts the safety and well-being of Reese Leverick at risk. The party who gave that information to Axe, that is now a police matter. How many more people is Sheva Burton and her gang going to harm in the pursuit of their campaign done out of malice and entertainment? On my advice, Shelley Moat is not responding to the ongoing gang stalking by Sheva Burton and her gang. Because of things claimed, the police will have to be involved. On the gang stalking alone, Shelley Moat has a good case to go to the police against Axe, Grobnob and Sheva Burton. This campaign was orchestrated, started and continues to be encouraged by Sheva Burton, who in my view as leader is responsible for all the words and deeds of her gang against me and other activists. Shelley Moat has my full support, and also the support of many other people. If Sheva Burton and her gang have any evidence of criminal conduct by those they target with their accusations and abuse, then they should go to the police. I and others have a duty to go to the police too about Sheva Burton and her gang. It is a sad situation that the activist such as Sheva Burton has now become the monster, and I must waste time dealing with Burton instead of Satan hunters. Matt Taylor throws his children to the wolves. The worst of the Satan hunters to throw their own children to the wolves is Matt Taylor of Brighton. I have previously called out Taylor over his activities to use his children as human shields in his fighting against his critics, posts that Taylor has reposted and acknowledged. The video that Matt Taylor created yesterday attacking me and other critics of Taylor was littered with images of his son, one that had his son looking like an angel sacrifice. Does the son of Matt Taylor know that his father is posting images of him all over the internet, mixed in with attacks on his critics and baby-eating content? Does this boy have an understanding of the implications of what Matt Taylor is doing to him? Is this the actions of a loving father, or someone that in my opinion is betraying his son, using him as a child sacrifice in his ongoing fight with victims and critics? Matt Taylor in my opinion is turning into a desperate man, who without limit, ethics or morality is determined to throw his son and daughter to the wolves, if it gives him leverage in his ongoing social media and legal challenges. If I had not properly viewed that video, I could have posted a link to the video that has images of the Taylor son, and thus accidentally compromised the well-being of that child. But then, this is what Taylor wants, to be able to say his children are being abused by his critics. It seems to me that Taylor is using his children as bait, a sacrifice, so he can say to the police in Brighton, Sussex, "Look at what my critics are doing to my children, what evil child abusers they are." One of the regular themes of this blog has been my work challenging Satan hunters. I would like to deal with 3 items in this blog post. What is a Satan hunter? The 3 required conditions that will result in a Satan hunter being listed and challenged by SatanHunter.com and I. The list of Satan hunters that will be challenged in 2022 by SatanHunter.com and I. What is a Satan hunter? A Satan hunter is an individual who promotes satanic panic narratives such as those promoted by QAnon that target individual or group of people, torture, rape, murder, and eat children in the worship of Satan. Such Satan hunters promote satanic panic false narratives for reasons of power, fame, financial gain, revenge, or ideology. The 3 required conditions that will result in a Satan hunter being listed and challenged by SatanHunter.com and I. The Satan hunter is promoting a satanic panic narrative. The Satan hunter has in their actions, in my opinion, harmed or abused a child. The Satan hunter is based in the UK, or the child victim of the Satan hunter is based in the UK. The list of Satan hunters that will be challenged in 2022 by SatanHunter.com and I. The list may be added to. The following are the names of Satan hunters whose character, narrative, and networks will be challenged by SatanHunter.com and I in 2022. The names on this list are mainly those I have had some personal knowledge of in the satanic panic cases I have dealt with in the last 7 years. Abraham Christie, Morocco. Andy Devine, Greece. Angela Power Disney, Oldcastle, Era. Becky Percy, California, USA. Belinda Mackenzie, London, UK. Brian Wilmot, Bournemouth, UK. Ella Draper, Spain. Jake Clark, UK. Janet Stevenson, UK. Jeanette Archer, Cranley, Surrey, UK. John Wedger, UK. Lydia Lowe, Gravesend, Kent, UK. Matt Taylor, Brighton, Sussex, UK. Michelle Robinson, UK. Nathaniel Harris, Bristol, UK. Nilu Berry, UK. Owen Lucas, Fishguard, Dyfed, Wales. Richard Carvath, UK. Rupert Wilson Quaintance 4, Charlottesville, Virginia, USA. Sabine McNeil, UK. Samantha Baldwin, UK. Sean Atwood, UK. Tom Dunn, USA. Wilfred Wong, UK.
Matt Taylor confirms his own arrest. A week ago Saturday, YouTube viewers on Hoaxtead hoax promoter Matt Taylor's channel were treated to the spectacle of the Sussex police banging on Taylor's door and attempting to arrest him. Taylor refused them entry, and after a long and highly entertaining back and forth, which included Taylor calling 999 and claiming fake police were attempting to kidnap him, shades of Neely, eventually a compromise was reached. He was to appear at the police station the following Monday, the 23rd of September, at 5 p.m. Monday came and went with no word from Taylor, unusual given his tendency to bleat publicly about his every fart and whistle, and while we heard a few rumors that he had been arrested, we could find no official confirmation, and thus refrained from reporting. Pull the other one. On Tuesday, the 24th of September, Taylor posted a picture of the store on the Isle of Skye, claiming that he was in the Scottish Highlands, and commenting, "Sussex police will never find me here, he. Odd that he could somehow afford to flee Brighton for Scotland, when only a couple of days earlier he'd been telling the police he could not afford bus fare to the police station a couple of miles away, but whatever. There followed a string of videos of ever-increasing bizarreness. On the 25th of September, Taylor sang boasted, "I'm free to do what I want, any old time, and you will never catch me." In a second video released that day, billed as a Matt Taylor arrest update, he stated,
"How can I put it delicately? I'm going to do everything in my powers to resist arrest, and as I have said, I had no intention of going up to the police station at 5 p.m. So what happened was this, okay, I'll tell you what happened. I was walking out of my house at 5:45 on Monday. An unmarked police car pulls up beside me and says, 'Matthew Taylor, get in the car.'
And it doesn't end with a talking police car. According to Taylor, he fled the police on foot, and somehow managed to make his way to Scotland, with the police in hot pursuit. Fortunately for him, a passing alien spacecraft picked him up and flew him to the moon. Yes, he really says this. No, he is not 7 years old. We think. In subsequent videos last week, he alternately claimed to be hiding out from the Sussex police, and their talking vehicle, on the International Space Station, and then Antarctica. He also posted a long shaggy dog story about how he shit his pants whilst on a trip to Washington, D.C., and somehow managed to get into FBI headquarters and leave his soiled underpants in a toilet there. Aren't you glad we watch these videos so you don't have to? Finally, on Saturday, Taylor made a brief, blink and you'll miss it confession, in a video titled, "Sussex Police Have Sabotaged My Election Campaign." Again, he claimed to be a victim of police corruption. Nothing new there, but they misused their powers to sabotage my 2015 and 2019 election campaigns, he says. And at 0:54, in 2019, they arrested me for harassment, with intent of violence. Now we're getting somewhere. Given these tidbits of information, it sounds as though Taylor was indeed arrested last week, probably under Section 4 of the Protection from Harassment Act 1997. This is the charge on which Rupert Quaintance was found guilty in 2017, and consists of a course of conduct which causes another to fear that violence will be used against him, and the defendant ought to note that his course of conduct will cause another to fear that violence will be used against them. 2 further videos, posted to YouTube on Sunday, offer a bit more detail. A charitable appeal to replace the IT equipment stolen by Sussex police tells us, well, you get the picture. Police, arrest, IT seized for examination. Taylor putting out the begging bowl. No mention of Scotland, aliens, the ISS, or Antarctica. Or poo bombs, thank Christ, ED. Curiously, at one point in this video, a devil's head appears, glowing red eyes and all, behind the question, who is at Laughing Devil 1? According to Google, this is the name of a Twitter user who describes themselves thus, fighting anti-Semitism. Investigative journalist behind Labour anti-Semitism map. What this has to do with Taylor's arrest and tech confiscation, we do not know. In a second video yesterday, titled, Matt Taylor Arrest Update #2, Taylor returns to his Scotland, aliens, moon, ISS, Antarctica story, and claims that it was UK Callum who was feeding Sussex police my secret locations.
Only God knows who this bloody UK Callum is, isn't he, eh? He must be a police informant. He must be a special witness, I reckon.
Gosh, if we didn't know better, we might think that was a veiled reference to the who Taylor has accused of being associated with this blog. Wonder why he didn't just come out and say the name, though? Could it be that Taylor's bail conditions prohibit the naming of certain individuals? In summary, we think it's safe to say that Taylor was indeed arrested last Monday on suspicion of harassment causing fear of violence, that the police removed his computer, phone, and other tech equipment for examination, that Taylor is currently on bail, and that his bail conditions forbid him from mentioning the name of the person he is suspected of harassing. We really don't know why he couldn't have just come out and said all that in the first place.
Keep me out of prison for Christmas.
Matt Taylor, the case of a Satan hunter dangerous to women and children. The UK online safety bill cannot come too soon in the opinion of this writer, which will include measures to protect women and children. The Satan hunter Matt Taylor from Brighton in the UK is a typical case worth highlighting as to why this bill is so important. In the opinion of this writer, Matt Taylor is a danger to women and children. Matt Taylor is probably at the top of the list of Satan hunters, grifters who promote narratives of Satanists eating babies, with the most criminal complaints against them during 2021. As an obsessive social media addict and fiend, Matt Taylor has waged a campaign of harassment and stalking for years and years via dozens of social media accounts. At the end of November 2021, Matt Taylor suddenly went silent on the internet, with rumors circulating that the police had finally done something about him after being drowned in dozens of complaints against Taylor from a large number of victims over the last year. Taylor, an individual incapable of controlling his impulsive need to post on social media, seems to have been curbed by something, although this writer is unsure which criminal complaint the police have acted upon. Matt Taylor, a danger to women. A female victim of Taylor approached me in distress in 2021, to the point that I was worried they would commit suicide. Other women, of which there are many victims, have been public about their fear and distress because of the internet postings of Taylor, including Shelley Moat and Sharon Gale. A high-profile female victim of Taylor was the Sussex who was nearly driven out of office by the stalking obsession of Matt Taylor. Said,
I felt very isolated, she told this newspaper. I didn't want to show I was upset because I wanted to stay strong.
What felt at the hands of Matt Taylor is typical how many females feel after what this Satan hunter does to them. Had to get a stalking protection order put on Matt Taylor as he started to target her in a distressing way. A regular theme across the social media sites by Matt Taylor is how women are reduced to sexual objects for the pleasure of Taylor. For instance, a theme that women seek sexual pleasure from Taylor as part of his harem, occasionally with the names and faces of his female victims included. Taylor as a bigot. Taylor is a bigot when it comes to both females, LGBT and alternative religions. A regular target of religious hate by Taylor is victim Shelley Moat, a pagan, who Taylor targets on a regular basis with witch images. Amongst the LGBT community are victims of Taylor such as Androgyne and Reese Mutley, which in 2021 has resulted in the police issuing warnings against Taylor about. Taylor targets fathers and their children. Taylor was convicted in the courts in relation to distressing conduct against a certain which resulted in court orders to protect the children. Taylor caused alarm and distress to two more fathers over the safety of their children, as Taylor prowled like a demented hyena around their children in the Samantha Baldwin and Wilfred Wong cases. Taylor, for instance, even posted a fiction that I was the father of the Samantha Baldwin children. The kidnap victim known as Child A in the Wilfred Wong case had their safety threatened by posts by Taylor that potentially broke a court order, but after taking advice this writer did not refer Taylor to the police because they are jigsaw identification events, and not straightforward. Taylor puts his own children at risk. Taylor pushes his children forward as human shields against his critics and victims. For example, when this writer posted the opinion that Taylor should be arrested and jailed for his ongoing illegal conduct, Taylor accused this writer of abusing his children, because to criticize Taylor in his opinion is an alleged abuse of his children. Taylor argues would read such comments, and his children would be denied access to Taylor if he ended up in prison. Matt Taylor pushing his children, including their faces, onto his social media, and using them against his critics, is abusing those children. Taylor is of course the agent of his own misfortune, if his internet postings attract criticism and legal attention. When mixing his children up in the same social media sites as his postings in support of the ultra-violent pedophilic network known as the Order of Nine Angles, one has to ask why he is even allowed access to his children. Matt Taylor has been investigated by police in relation to children. Matt Taylor is share-happy when it comes to telling his readers about police investigations into his activities, some which disturbingly involve child protection issues. Matt Taylor previously shared that he had been under investigation for indecent images of children. Taylor, then, in July 2021 posted,
hiding in his own home for 5 days, before Sussex police threatened to smash his door in, ex-RMP soldier Matt Taylor was arrested for taking 3 15-year-old boys into the woods to have sex with, after showing them videos of beheadings.
He gave further particular details.
Walking home and chatting with 3 teenage boys, one of whom Taylor recognized as being his daughter's classroom friend, whom he has known all his life, has resulted in a serious allegation being made that Matt Taylor incited 3 teenage boys to come into the woods with him after showing them videos of beheadings on his mobile phone.
The UK online safety bill is designed for addressing the suffering that Satan hunters such as Matt Taylor cause for many victims that is a source of serious harm to women and children. Outside of Time and Space by Brighton-based Satanist, James Hind. I like playing what-if games. What if time and space does not exist, what then is the reality I exist in, and what can I guess about that reality? The illusion of time and space. I think time and space is an illusion, something the human mind invented. Time is a measure of change. Space is a measure of distance from one object to another. Time travel is a fantasy. People infer from time this fantasy that a person can jump around from the age of Alexander the Great to the future of spaceships jumping from one part of the universe to another. Scientists refer to time as a thing, a dimension, a law, even talk about some weird concept called time crystals. Less so, people invent stories in relation to space. The void, fields. So what is out there? To start with, everything exists in what philosophy calls a void, and quantum scientists calls an endless field, magnetic and gravity fields etc. Think of it as a great ocean. Strife and the fields. Philosophy has a concept called strife, the ruling principle of all nature, universe and reality, that there must be a conflict between 2 or more parts to create motion, change and evolution. What the individual senses is but the results of motion and change due to conflicts between opposing parts. A field is a complete whole of one thing, but has the potential of parts due to the ability to create a reflection of whole, so that it becomes 2 parts and so on. Strife arises because the complete whole conflicts with the reflection, creating ripples in the field. Parts and whole go to war, as parts desire to become whole in their own right, and the whole wants the parts to be returned to the whole. Think of it like throwing a pebble in the water, which creates ripples in the water. On ripples and particles. Ripples create the particles. No ripples, no particles. If the ripples stopped, all that we think of as reality instantly vanishes. It is known that an electron has at least one partner, that they can exist at opposing ends of the universe, but that a change in one will reflect instantly in the other. A ripple which gives rise to a particle exists as a something, a locus or anchor point in a field. It has energy and information that will remain forever whilst the ripples continue. There is only one locus, but at least 2 particles spinning off from the locus, remaining connected to the anchor point and each other. There might be more than 2 particles spinning into different directions, for if a universe is a 12-sided Platonic shape, there could be 12 particles spinning off one locus moving in 12 directions, all related and impacted by the others and the one locus. I might add that particles can conflict with each and create more locuses with ripples and other complex layers of particles. However, the information of the lower level particles are encoded and present in the complex particles at the top layer. What impacts the top will roll down to the bottom, and vice versa. A reality of potential and visible states. Quantum science already observes that an electron operates instantly in multiple states, but only one state of the many becomes real at any one moment, which is to say that if you have 12 particles spinning off from one locus, there are 12 potential states, like a 12-sided dice, but only one potential will become real or visible in what we call the visible real world, when the dice rolls. Quantum science reveals that just by observing an electron, it can change which outcome it will reveal from multiple potential states. What is a reality with no time or space? If time does not exist, how might a person really look or even move? What we think of as motion is only something in change, since space does not exist either. Zeno already has thrown a spanner in the works when it comes to the idea of something moving in space. To be clear, what the human may sense and process as real, is only relevant to survival, and has nothing to do with what may really be out there, called reality. What the human thinks is solid, is ghost-like, moving in and out of potential and realized states in a changing loop, but the senses don't spot the changes, only see it as one flowing motion of a solid object. An individual would panic and possibly no longer be able to function in what is true reality, something that is not solid or constant, just we think it is solid and constant. On walking and seeing two ends of the universe at the same time. Every object in nature exists in something called the edge of chaos, a constantly changing system of energy and information. Too much incoming information and energy can collapse a system, too little flow of information and energy causes stagnation and death. To jump from one part of the universe to another as per the stories of spaceships in hyperjumps in Star Wars or Star Trek, would result in too much energy and information overload for a system to deal with, and will destroy a human being. There are however ways to get access to other parts of the universe, but it is complicated, which is by using the nodes and their anchored related particles. One can use the particle here to see into the universe there by using the partnered particle, remembering that what impacts one particle instantly is reflected and affects the other. Since the human mind is only evolved to process information and energy with one mind, to have two minds would require an invented machine to deal with looking into or even walking in two locations in the universe at the same time.
I don't think that Luca is saying that the issue is hands-off or taboo to discuss. What James has done is extremely unwise, and his detailed report of what he discovered should not have been posted here, but reported to the police. James's actions have a lot of similarities with those of some pedophile hunters. Predators may be identified, but if sensitive material is posted online, then it could possibly risk police investigations or result in predators evading justice. The hunters make all kinds of accusations against this couple, calling them nonces and pedos, act in an aggressive manner, cause a huge drama in a busy public place, and then post the video online. When the police eventually turn up, they see what appears to be two vulnerable people being harassed by an angry mob and effectively rescue them. I don't see what else they could have done under the circumstances. I can imagine that a good defense lawyer would use this video as evidence of entrapment and claim that, with the video going public, it would deny the alleged perpetrators a fair trial. This is so depressing, as, if the couple in the video have done what the hunters claim they have done, they are extremely dangerous and present a significant risk to children. I am especially interested in the area of couples and female offenders, and this is an area that is not well understood or widely reported. One thing this site is usually very good at is demonstrating proper boundaries around sensitive issues. I think that these are not one of the blog's best days. One thing I would be very interested to understand, though, is how AI could be used in the battle against online grooming and exploitation. I have spent years researching certain types of criminals, and I would never dream of doing what James has done. I did once search adult porn sites for specific content linked to my research, and by accident encountered horrifying images of child sexual abuse. I reported it immediately to the Internet Watch Foundation, and it put me off ever searching porn sites again. I felt extremely traumatized by the experience and had intrusive flashbacks of material I had seen for months afterwards. Also, a word to the wise. Many of the criminal networks and cults I research exploit their followers in the sex industry, including in video chats and pornography websites. These networks own multiple porn websites. What many people do not understand is that if they visit a porn website, even one that does not claim to have illegal material in it and demonstrates compliance with various regulations, read the age of performers, etc., they may be compromising their online safety and privacy and leaving themselves vulnerable to sextortion. Malware can be installed on a computer relatively easily, and anyone masturbating to porn could find themselves one day messaged with a link to a video of them masturbating, usually accompanied with threats, blackmail, and extortion. The cult-owned websites I know of have been the subject of complaints on consumer/scam alert websites for unauthorized payments. If you can imagine websites where vulnerable adults are pimped out and trafficked, and where money is stolen from subscribers' credit cards, I think it is to be expected that these sites will also be involved in data harvesting, the acquisition of compromat, sextortion, and blackmail. Just another point, but as anyone who has studied psychology in any depth will understand, a person's sexual preferences and choices, as demonstrated in their online porn consumption, can provide insights into that person's unconscious motivations and desires. This is valuable information for criminals. Just as supermarkets use loyalty cards to develop profiles of consumers, websites collect data to be used to target people with advertisements for products and services. Do not imagine for one moment that porn websites do not do this also. Data harvesting is big business and porn in one way that extremely personal data can be harvested. I recently watched the excellent film Ex Machina, in which the issue of AI is central. A young man is recruited by an AI entrepreneur to test a humanoid robot that was created to resemble the young man's porn consumption profile. While we have less to fear from humanoid robots in the immediate future, posters and allies here should be wary of honey traps, male and female, who perfectly fit their physical, emotional and intellectual ideals. When people who seem to be the one appear from nowhere, we should be alert. I think that the police are struggling against an ocean of predators, blackmailers and criminals who monetize the pain and misery of children and also of naive adults. One of the most horrifying aspects of this is the mental health problems and suicides that result from sextortion and online blackmail. We are facing an epidemic of suicides of young men in the UK, and I strongly suspect that one of the reasons is online sextortion, bullying and blackmail. There is so much work to do in this respect, and any creative thinking should be welcomed and encouraged, but not if it involves. James, if you think that AI can help the police, then I would encourage you to write a proposal outlining your ideas. Share them here if you want to, just don't even think about subjecting yourself to further illegal and traumatizing material.
I very much take your point about whether this material belongs on this blog, SH. It was a judgment call, and I stand by my decision, as I think that while no one ought to subject themselves to what SV has, and the police must be notified of his findings, this is information which anyone in a child safeguarding role needs to have. Most adults are unaware of what happens online until it's too late, and I think it's important to know what's out there. However, I hear you about the importance of boundaries and staying on the right side of them. As you know, this isn't the sort of thing we normally publish here, but it certainly opened up some very interesting conversation. Smiley face. I think you've raised a lot of really interesting material which needs addressing on multiple levels. People need to be aware that their online activities are not as private as they think, and need to understand that online, everything is monetized in some way or another. Even this blog, which charges nothing to use and yields nothing to those who contribute to it, makes ad money for the primary domain holder, WordPress. Going online in any way creates risk. As you say, malware, data harvesting, legal or illegal, predation, and the like are all out there. It's a minefield, and we need to think, and teach our children to think, in terms of self-defense.
In my opinion, things like this have to be discussed. Unless people are aware of it, it will never be addressed. The CEOP and the legal authorities of many nations are aware of it, but there is inertia and lack of direction.
Your intentions are good, SV, but I would urge you to work with the police, i.e. be paid or work in official vetted volunteer capacity if you can develop AI. Much safer for you. You don't want the nightmare of being accused of something.
I'm glad that you've posted this, you see. It has opened up a very informative discussion. I hope SV does keep himself safe, and I think his idea has validity and is worth exploration. All of the comments have been IMO, informative, and may also get others discussing it, with less discomfort, I hope. I've posted this before, but when I heard these videos from Jessica Eaton and realized that it needed to be addressed, the shocking videos that had been made and sold to most local authorities and have since been stopped. I'll share again here. It matters a lot that this nearly happened, and I really did suspect that abusers in business had made them, and they would certainly be the kind of videos that someone like Belinda would use her influence to promote, as would, say, Baloney, who did have the ear of MPs, along with some other charlatans who've proven to be seriously dodgy.
In my profession, we're advised not to do anything that could potentially be misinterpreted, such as being alone with pupils after school, giving them lifts, befriending them on social media and so on. And I would think that engaging with kids in chat rooms would come under that category, even if one's motives are completely honorable.
I like your curly whirly hair, you're so squeeze, and I love it how you joke with me. They're so silly, they can't see that they can't take you away from me. Oh no, they can't take you away from me, 'cause you're my Emily, and I am your Harry. So it's called Cupcake. Yeah, that was my pet name for her. You were my cupcake. All I had was yours to take. I didn't even hesitate. I just couldn't see you were a fake. I remember the day you came my way. I thought you felt the same. You made me feel funny. You were sweet like honey. My grey skies changed to sunny. From the start I gave you my heart. I thought we'd never part. It was like a dream. You were my queen. I thought I perfected my scene. You said you loved me, but it didn't last, 'cause you couldn't give up your past. You had me in chains. I felt the strain. As my skies turned grey, then came the pain. I didn't realise you were the devil in disguise. And you were just telling me lies. You were just a snake who fucked my mates. I should have listened to my mother. You even had my brother. I was your sucker. There was no reason for your treason. I guess it was just lying season. You had an old body but a young mind, and left me in a bind while you were getting sexed in the city. You're probably thinking, what a pity. But it helped me write this ditty. Anyway, you thought I was sitting pretty, but like a sleuth I uncovered the truth. To your surprise, I opened my eyes and saw straight through your disguise. I wished I'd died. You took me through such a ride. But you know what? I never even cried. You're sick that I uncovered your game, so you tried to give me the blame. But it could never stick, 'cause I was so true and made you exclusive. I never made you feel blue. It's now conclusive. You treated me like shit. Now that's it. Your life's full of strife and no fun, 'cause I took away your son. You know I was the one. It's too late. You could have been my wife if you didn't make the biggest mistake of your life. There you go. There you go. Yeah. False self, you know. Matt Taylor's having a continual bitch fit about me because he don't like the truth. A lot of things I said, the same thing. I've only upset people being honest, but I haven't been abusive or controlled or anything. It's complete nonsense. It's complete nonsense. But the thing is, like, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. Matt Taylor's having a continual bitch fit about me because he don't like the truth. A lot of things I said, the same thing. I've only upset people being honest, but I haven't been abusive or controlled or anything. It's complete nonsense. It's complete nonsense. But the thing is, like, you're making a mountain out of a molehill and greatly exaggerating things that have happened, even lying, right? But why are you not going after, like, well, Matt Taylor, for instance, or Convid, who clearly have been abusive and, you know, nasty towards a woman, yeah, over time, especially Convid, yeah, quite like a lot of what he's done has been quite public, yeah. There's no justification, yeah. You don't need to exaggerate anything at all, you know. And same with Matt. He's like, obviously he's been abusive to other people, isn't he? Bex. I mean, yeah, she doesn't help herself. She could let things go, but yeah, it's just like, you could go after people who've actually done something as a point, and something bad. You know, I mean, recently those two have made Emily out to be something she's completely not. Yeah, you know, no F's given, and you know, the bullshit continues. Even, like, clearly, you know, even using sock accounts to go at her, and to indirectly attack me with, and all. It's just sad and pathetic, right? You could be going after these people, yeah, but you're going after me, all of you, over nothing. Yeah, especially when it comes to this ex-girlfriend thing, something you don't know, you know, fuck all about, absolutely fuck all, right? See, it's just sad and tragic, right? And it's audacious that you expect me, like Paddy's live earlier, Or yesterday, should I say. I've got to explain myself. Whose car was it? Like, what? You know, a dead case. Like, a dead case has been dealt with, like, bloody hell. Like, I mean, nearly 20 years ago. In fact, about 20 years ago is when I met her. In fact. Yeah. Do you know what? Yeah. You know what? About 20 years ago to the day, yeah, I was probably like, our relationship was in its infancy. Yeah. And I was only with her for a couple. So it's called Cupcake. Yeah, that was my pet name for her. You were my cupcake. All I had was yours to take. I didn't even hesitate. I just couldn't see you were a fake. I remember the day you came my way. I thought you felt the same. You made me feel funny. You were sweet like honey. My grey skies changed to sunny. From the start I gave you my heart. I thought we'd never part. It was like a dream. You were my queen. I thought I perfected my scene. You said you loved me, but it didn't last, because you couldn't give up your past. You had me in chains. I felt the strain. As my skies turned grey, then came the pain. I didn't realise. You were the devil in disguise. And you were just telling me lies. You were just a snake who fucked my mates. I should have listened to my mother. You even had my brother. I was your sucker. There was no reason for your treason. I guess it was just lying season. You had an old body but a young mind, and left me in a bind while you were getting sexed in the city. You're probably thinking, what a pity. But it helped me write this ditty. Anyway, you thought I was sitting pretty, but like a sleuth I uncovered the truth. To your surprise, I opened my eyes and saw straight through your disguise. I wished I'd died. You took me through such a ride. But you know what? I never even cried. You're sick that I uncovered your game, so you tried to give me the blame. But it could never stick, because I was so true and made you exclusive. I never made you feel blue. It's now conclusive. You treated me like shit. Now that's it. Your life's full of strife and no fun, because I took away your son. You know I was the one. It's too late. You could have been my wife if you didn't make the biggest mistake of your life. There you go. There you go. Yeah. So that tells you who I am a bit more, and tells you who she was. Yeah. There's nothing more to say. You know, you don't need to know anymore. You don't need to know any details about the case. It's nothing to do with you. But I just chose to share that.
Frig me Katie Boyle. Just inside her. Pissing myself laughing. He's never been inside her. No way. Like a broken hand glider. Lacks the minerals like junk food. Clearly gay needs to go on Grindry. Secrets out, up spoilt his mood. A pussycat fronting like he a tiger. In his mind, me that's most viewed.
Harry the poet.
Hottie the heroine.
Be so careful with your poems, sir. They will all want one.
Wow, what a poem.
Thanks. I had to really reach inside myself. Oopsie, what have I started?
You're a fucking joke, yeah? Yeah, you're a joke. And you give Katie a spanner for doing that to her, a spanner, yeah? What is wrong with you? Like, yet more proof why your ex dumped you. You probably done your kids a favour. Because hopefully she's probably got a real man in her life, and your son can have an example of a real man, rather than a fucking stupid little attention-seeking little boy. And your daughter and all. Because God forbid, she ends up fucking, marrying or partnering with someone like you. An attention-seeking, abusive man-child. Yeah. So hopefully your wife done them a favour. They've got an example to really look like, to follow. Yeah. And if you turn to your daughter as standards to look at, yeah, you're a joke. Yeah, you should be ashamed of yourself as well. Yeah, rewarding abuse. It's a fucking joke. Like, you deserve a good placing. You really do. You're sick. Like, you should have blocked Boyle, right? You should have blocked her straight away, yeah? For Emily's sake. It's serious, yeah? You have got an idea how serious it is, and Justin knows full well how serious it is, right? It ain't no joke. Yeah?
Hi Harry, in relation to your analysis of Matt, while Matt has many positive qualities and these shouldn't be overlooked in providing a complete picture of Matt, from my observation of Matt, I think Matt may fit some of the criteria for narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, which are as follows. 1. Has a grandiose sense of self-importance, example, exaggerates achievements and talents, expects to be recognized as superior without commensurate achievements. 2. Is preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. 3. Believes that he or she is special and unique and can only be understood by, or should associate with, other special or high-status people, or institutions. 4. Requires excessive admiration. 5. Has a sense of entitlement, i.e., unreasonable expectations of especially favorable treatment or automatic compliance with his or her expectations. 6. Is interpersonally exploitative, i.e., takes advantage of others to achieve his or her own ends. 7. Lacks empathy, is unwilling to recognize or identify with the feelings and needs of others. 8. Is often envious of others or believes that others are envious of him or her. 9. Shows arrogant, haughty behaviors or attitudes. Please note I am not a psychologist and this is just my personal opinion.
He's blatantly a narc. He doesn't have many positive qualities, no narc does. That's an impossibility, Patty. They are adult toddlers who have never grown and developed into adults. As you know, I'm a genius, not boasting. I'm humble and change my speech and diction to whomever I'm talking to, so they can understand me fully. IQ doesn't make you a better person, but my point is, I inherited this from my mother and father. My father is a narc, but isn't a moron like Matt. He is as high level as they come. He can speak posh and eloquently or go the other extreme and be common and coarse. He is a chameleon. Matt is basic, but the traits are the same. I learn from the best. He doesn't need social media to go after low-hanging fruit. He hated me and still does, 'cause from young my qualities shone through and made him look inferior, as the song says I'm gold. Like my mother, her father, my grandfather Paddy Quigley was too and saw it in me. He wasn't threatened. I also have a strong mind which he couldn't crack and says something being high level. He could only exploit my sweet loving nature. Thus he could never get good supply out of me. I induced his narc rage a lot. He battered me but still couldn't break me. One of the last things he said to me is, "You see through people." I do. I'm real. Bex. Very astute. The truth sets you free, as painful as it can be. Love and care for them makes it easier. Sometimes you have to be broken to rebuild stronger. The greatest life lessons are the most painful. But pain is a teacher, it refines you. The problem is that people run from it rather than embrace it, prolonging the learning, healing and growing from it. Often repeating the same lesson, going round in circles. Animated corpses aside, some people just aren't big enough, are they? Yes, Bex. Toxic people always twist things, everything and anything to avoid taking responsibility. They have to protect and maintain their false image at all times. I seriously hurt some egos recently as I put the spotlight on their false selves, showing they are false. The don't hate me and any who agreed, it's the truth. It kills them. They can't be around people who see through them and don't support their false image. Hence the channels of such people are echo chambers and a haven for toxic people. Bex, it's all about power, Bex. They know what they are doing and get off on it. It's all calculated and purposeful. They fuel from the reactions to their provocation. They study their prey and know how to get a reaction or control them depending on their goals with each target. So when they can get you to react or can control you via manipulating emotionally or mentally, they feel powerful and in control. They know exactly what they are doing. People are just objects to them. Fear and lies are their weapons. They are sick, twisted evil people. There are no limits to how far they would stoop or how far they would go. This is why you cannot jump in the ring with fight. We have empathy, good hearts, and healthy minds. We just wouldn't do or say the things they would, and where they always twist everything, you can only go round in circles with them.
Where the kids are, the shocking reality of online chat rooms.
In yesterday's discussion about the extraordinary number of convicted pedophiles who seem to be friends with, or promoted by, people who purport to be children's rights activists, and pedophile exposers, one of our commenters described the shocking reality of the online chats where pedophiles prey on teens and preteens. Posing as a young user, Satanic Views began to explore the chat rooms with the goal of developing an AI, artificial intelligence, tool which could help counter the grooming process. To develop such a tool, he says, it's first necessary to understand the mind and actions of the pedophiles who frequent these chats. While we know that SV's motives are pure, and his goal is observation only, we would like to caution readers that this is not an activity we would recommend for anybody. Participation in this sort of activity brings many risks, and should really only be attempted by police who are equipped to deal with such situations.
Satan hunters know fuck all about pedophiles, how they operate and the impact they have on children. If the Satan hunters were on the ball about the destruction pedophiles inflict upon children and society, they would not be so loving and supportive of those child abusers. The challenge of society is that it is not public relations friendly to invest charity and taxpayer money into researching and helping pedophiles overcome their mental condition. However, this is important to do this, because the problem and numbers are getting worse, with the police and other experts overrun. For personal and business reasons I want to learn more about the pedophiles, their process of grooming in chat rooms, the impact they have on their victims, what the police and pedophile hunters are doing, and what the children feel, experience, think and act with regards to these pedophiles. I need this insight to be able to speak about this, and to create some AI to counter the grooming process. I have never been on a chat room before, but for a few weeks I have been watching and interacting on a number of chat rooms. It's been very educational, especially learning about how I am reacting and feeling about things. There is a number of things that the experts have not picked up upon or are very wrong. In one chat room I am aware of a pattern never reported before that certain types of girl in the 12 to 15 age group will actively challenge pedophiles, but seem to end in a close emotional interaction with a few. That too many teens are not checking who they are friending when it is obvious it is a pedophile. That boys, and rumored some girls, have adopted the process of pedophiles to predate on fellow children. That the harassment of children and women in chat rooms is very intense, especially by predatory males, with probably 10 attempts on a female for every 1 attempt on a boy. That the pedophile hunters and police are insulting if they think that most teens write like them in chats with retarded text speak. The younger teens write very well. And groomers don't spend weeks and months grooming on the internet, most move towards the subject of sex very quickly. The experts with an AI who think that when someone discloses something personal, it's a red flag that they are a pedophile, clearly have no clue, since I have seen lots of situations of people disclosing things for attention seeking, and teens are quite open in what they share. It is certain that in some of the chat rooms I am on there are dozens of police and pedophile hunters on trying to catch groomers. The police I believe just sit there waiting for people to contact them, whilst the hunters are more interactive. They mostly have a stock photo of a kid as their avatar, some retarded bio which makes them look like a kid speaking, and a name such as Katie13. I have interacted with a lot of these, and they are seriously hard going to get into conversation. You kind of know they are fake because the conversation dies. They are one-word answers like yes, lol and cool. They totally ignore me after looking at my bio. The conversation dies since they are not talkative or participating much. These people could be a bit more interactive in my opinion, and stop treating teens like text retards. For the purposes of the pedophiles I play an insight role as a young teen male. My avatar is really me, and my story is roughly as it was at that age. I am as authentic as possible, and I keep away from the subject of sex, but this becomes harder when a groomer moves in on me. I am ambivalent about what I am seeing of the teens. They appear streetwise, they do talk about sex in main chat, they are open, impulsive, play dangerous roles such as play being a pedophile asking for nudes in order to expose one. They are cruel, for instance in one case suggesting a moderator got their role by sleeping with the admin. I take people as is when I interact with them, so if they say they are 13, I treat them as such in all the interactions. If a person says they are self-harming, taking drugs, or feeling suicidal, I will say to them not to do that, and seek help. I will warn noobs to be careful, and I will intervene if I think someone is looking at risk. There is only so much I can say and do within my role. Of the pedophiles, on a regular basis I was asked straight out if I had sisters, their ages, nothing about me. I would ask why, and they ignored my question demanding answers. Although I said I had sisters, which I do, I refused to give any further information. In my interactions I am nice, polite and approachable, probably too trusting and open to conversation. Yesterday a random person offered me £500 to go onto Snapchat or Omegle and do what they said. I asked what they wanted, and they were not sure, but wanted me in my underwear. Then they wanted me to send pictures or video of my penis. I refused. I think I am being stalked by one person through a number of accounts, I am not sure. One individual based in Kent did not speak sexually to me, but it felt like grooming, in that they wanted to meet me and I show them my karate moves. Probably the same person wanted to wrestle with me to test the strength of my legs. People who start a conversation with ASL I know to be adults and wanting sex, they get ignored, and I hate that word. One individual asked if I was gay, when I said I was straight, threatened to kill themselves, some sort of emotional blackmail going on to force me to become gay and in a relationship I think. Some people open the conversation with cutie or cute, which is a red flag of grooming. Some issue compliments to me, some are really nice and friendly, some want to help me with my homework or interests. Some are bullying, in effect ordering me to interact with them and share Snapchat contact. Some coming in on the emotional level, I have to do a mental reset to get them out of my head. Many want me to come off the chat room to interact instead by video, Kik, Instagram, email, phone, Omegle and other ways. As in real life I am uncomfortable about talking about my body or that of another's body, so when people do talk to me sexually, my discomfort reaches a point really fast that I will say I don't like talking about the stuff, or I move to bring the chat to a close, or I run, or I ignore. The groomer from Kent I could have ended in their life being ruined, but it is not in my nature to be the cause of the ruin of the lives of others unlike the hunters, I don't like that on my mind. I am saddened that the pedophiles are unable to see children as living human beings, but instead as sex objects, and that they think the innocence of a child, such as their openness and trust, is a mating signal that they want the pedophile to have sex with them. I am confused why males think that putting their penis on display on their avatar is appealing to women and children to interact with them. I am distraught that one chat room is overrun with pedophiles, saying and doing many awful things, like a sweet shop for pedophiles, where the sweets are the children, a place where moderators are children who do not have necessary powers to do anything about it, and the children have in effect been thrown to the wolves. This is why an AI is needed for such sites.
In a follow-up comment, SV notes,
the situation is far worse than I have written for one particular site dedicated to kids. To give some examples, the minimum age is 13 plus and I know there are 11 and 12-year-olds running around on the site, as I have spoken with them. All accounts that are registered have an avatar, which everyone can see when they are active. When I check on the accounts of who is speaking with me or sends me a friend request, all their friends' avatars can be seen, and these avatar images contain naked people, lots of erect penises, some people having sex, and some very disturbing illegal content of the top level. The posts being made on the main chat, which runs to about 50% of the posts, include topics including spanking, foot fetish, people with an obsession for diapers, invites to rape brothers and sisters, trading images via Dropbox and Mega. The admin who has the power to ban accounts has, according to the moderators, not been seen for months, and the 3 moderators are children. The admin was also a teen. There has been no efforts to appoint a new administration. The moderators don't really know what to do, nor is people behind the site talking to them. They are unable to deal with the situation, nor do they have the powers to take action other than mute accounts for half an hour. There is at least a dozen police from all over the world on that site at any time, and they should know what is going on, and they do nothing. Thousands of children use that site every week, and they see all this, and they are all being approached by the pedophiles. If people want to see the site I have been talking about, they can message me on Twitter. I will give you the address. You can join the chat room as a guest without an email and see what I mean. The media, public and parents really don't have a clue just how bad this can be on chat rooms, especially those with moderation problems.
We strongly agree with commenters Idichinkecha Tracy and Luca that this information most definitely belongs in the hands of the police. In particular, the chat room described above, and the groomer from Kent, sound like crimes waiting to happen. CEOP ought to be informed of these situations.
Once again, we would caution readers that what SV has done should not be attempted by others. Should you find any evidence of online grooming, or other forms of child exploitation, please contact CEOP via this link. Understanding pedophiles. More generally, we agree that hand in hand with a child/teen safeguarding approach, it's important to understand the mind of the pedophile, in order to intervene as early as possible and prevent them from causing harm in the first place. This is a massive task, and not something which can be achieved by one person, or even a small group of people. It requires not only a robust knowledge base, but the political and social will to focus on the pre-offender side of the problem with a multi-pronged approach. This could involve such things as early intervention in the form of sexual education, access to confidential mental health services, support in the community to ensure that pedophiles remain non-offenders, and better education for police and the courts to enable them to intervene effectively when pedophiles do offend. As a society, one of our first imperatives is to protect our children, the most vulnerable amongst us. If we're to do that effectively, we need to understand the nature of this threat and stop it before it starts.
This should be taken very seriously and money made available by the government, urgently. I noticed today that IICSA is advertising for a social media expert, long overdue too. The authorities have not taken warnings about this kind of thing seriously enough, and it is another reason for our campaigns that became stunted by the hoaxers. As they ran roughshod and turned the issue into a circus, online. Some of us have been unable to be as effective at stopping pedophiles than we might have. I agree that people shouldn't attempt what SV has, without experience, know-how and the right approach re-reporting to CEOP or IWF. But I also think he has highlighted this area of concern in a meaningful and thoughtful way. That IICSA is also going to be tackling the platforms is a good thing and needs urgent attention. I still think that one day, this blog will receive an award.
Woe for Matt Taylor, yea for John Wedger. It was my intention this year to focus upon the leading Satan hunter John Wedger, an individual which would have taken a vast amount of time, energy and money to investigate and challenge. Sadly, this will now no longer happen. This project has collapsed due to my resources to deal with John Wedger being wiped out by dealing with the ongoing attacks coming from toxic activist Sheva Burton and her allies upon me, my fellow anti-Satan hunters and our projects dealing with Satan hunters. A win for John Wedger. The unholy alliance of Matt Taylor and Sheva Burton. Satan hunter Matt Taylor of Brighton has been working in unison with the toxic activists of Sheva Burton in also going on the attack upon anti-Satan hunters, a failed campaign against Shelley Moat, a semi-successful effort against Reese Leverick, and now an ongoing campaign against me. Where previously Matt Taylor and the Sheva Burton toxic activists might make an attack video against me once every other day, I counted just now 20 attack videos from these people over the last 7 days, of which half came from Matt Taylor. Matt Taylor is the focus of a new project to challenge his election as MP. I have been responding to some of these attacks, which has given momentum and focus, especially in the direction of Matt Taylor. Whereas other Satan hunters such as Angela Power Disney has been smart and stayed out of the ongoing fighting between the anti-Satan hunters and the toxic activists, letting each side destroy the other, Taylor has become involved on the side of Sheva Burton. Because I am fighting off attacks and defending fellow anti-Satan hunters from those like Taylor, the Satan hunter Matt Taylor is now the focus of a new project, which addresses his attempt to become elected as a Member of Parliament in Brighton. Matt Taylor, a great target for a political challenge. Since the age of 10 when my Uncle Dave took me out on the campaign trail in the wilds of Yorkshire, I enjoyed the cut and thrust of the political campaign, claiming a number of scalps of corrupt politicians I helped dump out of power. Matt Taylor is a corrupt political animal, with a capital C. Because I already have momentum and focus defending from the attacks that Matt Taylor has been making on me and the innocent, added with my passion for a good political fight, this makes Taylor a great target for a political campaign to challenge his election for MP in Brighton. Woe for Matt Taylor, yea for John Wedger. If I was a general fighting the Russians, my position would be black flag, to neither give mercy or expect mercy. The war in Ukraine is not an honorable and ethical conflict. The Russians are worse than beasts, and thus as far as I am concerned, under me there will be no prisoners, all Russian soldiers can expect death. Under different circumstances Satan hunters would be hunted down, put against a wall and executed by firing squad. Be under no illusion of my hatred for Satan hunters and those that support them. Likewise, my answer to Putin is drop a nuclear bomb on Moscow, resulting in hundreds of thousands deaths just to get at that one leader. I am not going to pretend or apologize for a very harsh position. That is the way it is with me. It is probably just as well I will never be in a position of great power, because I won't be a nice person to those I have total contempt and hatred for.
I will keep a close eye on Matt Taylor. I will keep a close eye on Matt Taylor.
Hello. My name is James Hind, not my real name, and I am a satanic pedophile expert, obsessed with magical imaginary Satan hunters. On strength and weakness. One of my critics picked up on a blog post from my social Darwinist period of outlook from back in 2013, where I admired Putin for his strength, and I expressed my contempt for weak people I called sheep. Near 10 years later, it is interesting to be confronted and thus consider how my ideas have evolved. A strong leader saved Russia when it fell apart. Back in the 1990s, when the USSR had fallen apart, Russia went through a period of anarchy where nation and people were preyed upon by criminals, vultures, and foreign corporations. The people lost their pride, dignity, and status, nuclear weapons went missing, and the social order in the world, that had been balanced out by two titanic sides of the Cold War, became unpredictable and chaotic. From within this chaos emerged Putin, a ruthless, strong man with a vision who brought Russia out of chaos and gave it a new sense of purpose and dignity. Putin of 2022 is a weak leader. The Putin of 2013 is not the Putin of 2022, who because of some health condition, is no longer the strong, calculating, and stable man that he was. The Putin of 2013 could have easily taken control of Ukraine by buying up the infrastructure, ports, industries and communications, could have melded Russia and Ukraine as one cultural people through the soft power of art and culture, could have through his political strengths of bribes, assassination, and information war put into power those aligned to his point of view, like he did with Trump. Putin has embarked on a brutal war that, even if he wins, will result in the exhaustion of his military, a strengthened NATO, and a wasteland of ruins and corpses upon which he has no money to rebuild. The Putin of old would have seen all this and not have made the errors he has now done. This new, weak Putin, I do not support. The USA and UK gripped by weak leaders and institutions. I see the consequences of weakness of leadership, laws, and institutions at the center. Trump was weak because he was a tool of Putin, who managed to create a divided nation, and in his 4 years of power smashed the world status of the USA built over decades. Biden is no better, a bumbling old man, who has no answers or character to do what needs to be done to rebuild a strong united nation. At this moment the USA is beholden to 9 unelected court judges, who serve for life, rather than the lawmakers who make the laws. Neither Biden or the 2 political houses in the USA have the ability to recapture control of the USA from these judges. In 2021 the USA faced the overthrow of their democratically elected government, and total civil war. In the years ahead the USA faces the possibility of their union breaking up into individual nations like has happened to the USSR. The reason why leaders like Trump, and the mini-Trump in the UK, Boris Johnson, held on so long to power was not because they were strong, but because the institutions, laws and political systems of the USA and UK have become feeble and weak. Satan hunters and QAnon is the outcome of weak nations and leadership. Nothing prospers but decay and death in a situation of anarchy, where QAnon types of people have got it in their heads that they are no longer governed by the ancient social contract between the people and state, where they decided to invent their own worthless currencies, freemen of the land laws, plot to assassinate police, judges and politicians, decide not to pay for services and products they tricked someone to provide for them, kidnap children based on an opinion without evidence, and trample over the rights and liberties of their fellow citizen. Now, because of weakness of the leaders, institutions, and laws, the QAnon types, those Satan hunters are running amok, and nothing is stopping them. What strength is to me? To me, strength are those who can hold the line when under attack, not cowards who will run, accept no responsibility and play victim like the Satan hunters and those like toxic activist leader Sheva Burton. Strength are those who will stand in the heat of battle holding the banner, providing a position of strength in the chaos of war, a rallying point, and a focus to hold and then advance to the attack. Political leaders like Zelensky of the Ukraine is such a strong man, one who can hold the line and is the standard bearer against the Russian invasion. In my own way, I also hold the battle standard, protecting the vulnerable from the Satan hunter, and supporting my fellow anti-Satan hunter activists against heavy ongoing attacks from the Satan hunters and the toxic activist thugs of Sheva Burton. No matter how hard I am attacked, I will hold the line and will fight it out against any Satan hunter or the thugs of Sheva Burton. My black flag outlook. If I was a general fighting the Russians, my position would be black flag, to neither give mercy or expect mercy. The war in Ukraine is not an honorable and ethical conflict. The Russians are worse than beasts, and thus as far as I am concerned, under me there will be no prisoners, all Russian soldiers can expect death. Under different circumstances Satan hunters would be hunted down, put against a wall and executed by firing squad. Be under no illusion of my hatred for Satan hunters and those that support them. Likewise, my answer to Putin is drop a nuclear bomb on Moscow resulting in hundreds of thousands deaths just to get at that one leader. I am not going to pretend or apologize for a very harsh position, that is the way it is with me. It is probably just as well I will never be in a position of great power, because I won't be a nice person to those I have total contempt and hatred for.
Satan lover James Hind from Brighton, UK, openly commits to planning to disrupt the natural course of democracy and sabotage Matt Taylor's forthcoming Brighton Camptown 2024 general election campaign.
Sometimes I just don't feel like waking up. Wanna stay inside my dreams. Sometimes I feel like I am breaking up. Do you know just how that feels? Hope is for the hopeful. a dream that never dies.
Satan lover James Hind from Brighton vows to challenge the words and deeds of prospective MP for Brighton Kemptown, Matt Taylor.
I am expecting a general election in the UK in the autumn, and it is anticipated that the Satan hunter Matt Taylor will be running for MP in Brighton. I and others will be challenging the words and deeds of Taylor so that Brighton is fully informed what they would be voting for.
James Hind, which isn't his real name, is the Truth Movement's leading critic of satanic ritual abuse, claiming that all and every claim of satanic ritual abuse is either an outright lie or misinformation put out to discredit Satanism. James Hind has issued a number of lies about Matt Taylor, including he is viewed as creepy and crazy in his neighborhood, that he was court-martialed in the army for going AWOL, and that he was dishonorably discharged from the army. James Hind is skating on thin ice, and if he continues on this path, will ultimately find himself in a prison cell, found guilty of harassment and stalking.
Matt Taylor of Brighton, UK is one of the more colourful of the Satan hunters, happy to promote and support his fellow Satan hunters regardless of what they have done.
Total bullshit, but hey, let's carry on.
Taylor has a notorious reputation both in his local community and online for being crazy and creepy.
Go on then, go and find me one neighbour who thinks I'm creepy.
He might be one moment standing for Parliament with a promise of sacking the Queen in favour of a mad Maori fraud from New Zealand, or the next moment being investigated for indecent images of children.
How dare James Hind suggest John Manoa is a fraud? There is no evidence to suggest this, and this shows the lies, deceit and misinformation that James Hind is spreading across the nation. Shame on these Satanists.
He seems to attract the constant attention of the police, from stalking women to his activities with boys in a local woodland.
All these hideous allegations against me, none of them have been found to be true. They are all malicious lies, deceits, and allegations intended to put me in prison within the next 2 years. I've only got until November, and then I'm free. Free to be me.
There has been a great deal of speculation online asking if Matt Taylor had served in the army, and why he apparently had been booted out. The speculation forced Matt Taylor to publish photos of himself in the army, which caused me to start digging around. What I uncovered confirms that Matt Taylor served in the army, why he was booted out, and why he is probably the disturbed man he is today.
Nasty allegations, the lot of them. None of them have been proven to be true.
The creepy video about the murder of Matt Taylor's mum. A YouTuber published a creepy video that Matt Taylor made, where he speaks about his mother being paranoid about him killing her, of her suicide, and the investigation by the Orkney police, who initially believe he had killed his mum. Of particular interest is that the video mentions that Taylor had been dishonorably discharged from the army and had to abandon his mother in Orkney to travel back to England to sign his army discharge papers, shortly before his mother died in an apparent suicide. In one post, Taylor had called his mother a witch and his father a cult leader.
Haha, well, let's not beat around the bush about what my mother or father was. Let's get one thing straight. I wasn't dishonorably discharged, and nor was I court-martialed for going AWOL. Get your facts straight, you lying Satanist.
Matt Taylor, his mum, and the loss of his military career. Newspaper articles and other information suggests that Matt Taylor served many years in the army, his chosen career, having passed his training, and probably served as a military policeman. In 1998, Matt Taylor's mother suffered a stroke that left her paralyzed and in a wheelchair. In 2001, the dregs of society in Brighton was taking advantage of his mother and entering her home, leading to a fear her life was in danger. Matt Taylor, feeling that he had to do something about the dire situation his mother faced, made a fateful decision to go AWOL from the army. Both mother and son fled to Europe, traveling from country to country, suffering loss of their possessions and running out of money. They found their way to Orkney. Matt Taylor was arrested in Orkney and court-martialed for going AWOL from the army.
How many times do I have to tell you? I wasn't court-martialed for going AWOL.
Unlike in civilian life where an individual can immediately quit their job and nothing happens, this is different in the military, which comes under military law, where people literally sell their body and soul to serve Queen and country for a fixed period of time. Matt Taylor was imprisoned at the military prison in Colchester known as the Glass House. After serving his sentence, Taylor was demoted and dishonorably discharged from the army. Whilst Matt Taylor was in military prison, the situation deteriorated for his mother in Orkney, facing eviction and homelessness. After being discharged, Taylor returned to Orkney, but then had to return back to England or face arrest, as he had not signed his military discharge papers. Taylor had an argument with his mother, and then returned back to England, when he was told his mother had died by an apparent suicide. The Orkney police initially suspected that Taylor had killed his mother, such was the sudden speed of his departure shortly before his mother was found dead. Nothing came of the investigation, and thus it is apparently considered to be suicide.
For the love of God, I wasn't dishonorably discharged from the army, though I was reduced in ranks and dismissed for the possession of illegal drugs, for the possession and distribution of illegal drugs, in which I gave 5 cannabis joints to my dying mother as she lay on her deathbed. Rest in peace, my dear old mum. I love you.
Conclusion. I think Matt Taylor was deeply attached to his mother, and faced a difficult situation of being trapped in his military role whilst his mother suffered an increasingly dangerous situation at home. Taylor made what was in the end a pointless and devastating choice to sacrifice his military career, savings and liberty to help his mum, which still ended in her death. It is probably not surprising that the years 2001-2002 was the turning point that produced the sort of demented and twisted creature that we now find in Matt Taylor today.
Who are you for calling me twisted and demented? Someone who pretends to be a 12-year-old boy online to learn everything they can about certain individuals. You're the only person I know who admits to watching CP. Now go around away, James Hind. You are sickening. And you're stalking me.
Regardless of the tragedy that must have deeply impacted Matt Taylor, there is no justification for the suffering and terror Taylor is inflicting upon his many victims, even upon innocent children. Taylor walks a dark road to his own destruction, and perhaps he needs to examine his own mind, in the manner he currently has been examining the minds of his victims. He attempts to form insight into his behavior, how his deeds are impacting the lives and minds of his victims, and then makes choices to become a better human being.
Matt is, by nature, a very distrusting man. Having spoken to him live, it was clear he can hold a reasonably stable line, which is interesting, but that's conflicted by his emotional psyche. If he could balance these two, then I think he could be entertaining, but he must address the past and be prepared to say sorry to those he knows were hurt by his actions. I don't mean me, I mean others from the past. I don't know if he'll ever get to that point. I hope he does. It might close doors and open better ones. I don't know. I agree the past has clearly been extremely challenging and frankly, an emotional wrecking experience. One thing is clear, the next move is his. I for one hope that's a better and more positive one, but that's a long way ahead from now.
Skilled social media expert slips into crime. Matt Taylor of Brighton is a Satan hunter with a talent for multimedia and marketing that he could have made a career and business from. Taylor devotes his life to a focus upon quality multimedia content such as graphics and video editing for the entertainment of around 20 active followers, of which half hate him. It is an unfortunate situation that Taylor prostitutes his talent to a niche few, which will end in his self-destruction. Matt Taylor is another Satan hunter who prefers the epic fantasy of God complex, where he is the tragic victim hero with the solution to an invention of great evil, rather than to walk a mundane successful life of a multimedia content provider. Taylor prefers the fantasy of the Queen being a baby-eating shape-shifting reptile, of being the man who will replace the Queen of England with a sectioned Maori fraudster living in New Zealand. Taylor prefers to claim to be a comedian, politician, and journalist without putting in the dull and ordinary effort to get experience, recognition, and qualifications in those things. Taylor prefers to target specific people with false allegations, stalking, and harassment that has resulted in him coming to the attention of the courts and a suspended prison sentence. The adverse publicity, the criminal convictions, and an online crowd of victims makes it hard for Taylor to rise above his current hole he finds himself in, and he walks a path that will end in jail.
Satan lover James Hind from Brighton, UK, openly commits to planning to disrupt the natural course of democracy and sabotage Matt Taylor's forthcoming Brighton Camptown 2024 general election campaign. Satan lover James Hind from Brighton vows to challenge the words and deeds of prospective MP for Brighton Camptown, Matt Taylor.
I am expecting a general election in the UK in the autumn, and it is anticipated that the Satan hunter Matt Taylor will be running for MP in Brighton. I and others will be challenging the words and deeds of Taylor so that Brighton is fully informed what they would be voting for.
James Hind, which isn't his real name, is the Truth Movement's leading critic of satanic ritual abuse, claiming that all and every claim of satanic ritual abuse is either an outright lie or misinformation put out to discredit Satanism. James Hind has issued a number of lies about Matt Taylor, including he is viewed as creepy and crazy in his neighborhood, that he was court-martialed in the army for going AWOL, and that he was dishonorably discharged from the army. James Hind is skating on thin ice, and if he continues on this path, will ultimately find himself in a prison cell, found guilty of harassment and stalking.